Hello and welcome to the RTO Show. I'm your host, Pete Chow, and today we have one of my personal favorites on, Gary Ferriman with Showplace, who has done just about everything in 44 years that you can think of. I think that Showplace has been open for now 44 years is what you'd... So you've had Showplace open for a really, really long time. 15 locations, correct?
That's what we have currently, yes.
Oh my God, 15 locations. Gary, how are you doing today? How's everything going?
Well, when you ask about doing this, obviously timing wise, it's right at the end of my career. I technically retired from day-to-day stuff at the end of February. And so here we are in April. I've had some time outside since then. So, I haven't had a sport coat on in a while. There was a lot of forces trying to drag me to DC this year. I didn't end up going, but have certainly done that trip a lot of times. But things are good. I'm still helping Keith, my son, who's running the business, a little bit, and I got some bucket list projects that I'm working on. Some of it surrounding just stuff that you put off when you're working really hard through your career, like gathering up your old videos and pictures and getting those organized. That's a bucket list project that I'm about to start. So,
well, listen, I want you to know you look pretty good for a guy that's retired. You look like you're sharp and ready to go to work right now. No,
well,
I remember
I
some
hope
of the...
the memory can stay good. I hit the big 7-0 this year, and I hope the memory stays good. It's never been very good, but I always just said it was because I had a 40 gig job on a 20 gig hard drive. So
It's really funny. The other day I actually made that reference, but it wasn't quite like that, but you actually said it a lot better than I did. So the reason that I wanted to have you on, Gary, is because you do have over 4 decades of experience. And there are people out there right now, they're looking at the economy, they're looking at what's going on. And I mean, even people like myself, we want to get into the business more. We want to do more. But there's always that fear, especially before it's your first store, or you're going into your second location. You're kind of like, I don't know if I should go into it now because there's probably a laundry list of reasons of because you should. You come up with the 5 great reasons. Well, I love this and I can do it better than anybody. And I know that if I had my own store, I can make it happen. But then there's the other side of it and people going, well, prices of products are going to go up. Or at least we don't know if they're going to go up. There's a possibility that they're going to go up. It's a possibility we don't know how long they're going to stay up. It's a possibility there could be a interruption of product going from one place to the next, and we're just not really sure how long that's going to last. Is it a really good time to open? We hear that taxes are going to get better. Then I hear taxes might be worse. We're not 100% sure. There's a little bit of turmoil and a lot of things that's going on. Not a ton of turmoil, but when there's a changeover in the presidency, one guy wants to do it differently than the other guy, and there's that little bit of upset. And then guys like me, guys that are the little guys going, I really want to get into this. I don't know if it's a great time. Gary, running Showplace for so many years, you have 15 locations. I mean, when is it really a great time to get in? Is there a great time? Is it you jump in with 2 feet and say, listen, no matter what happens, I'm going to make this work? Or is there a little bit of a tip that you can say, you know what, if I knew this 40 years ago, I probably would have done this differently?
Yeah, I think we have, unlike one of the other businesses I looked at and started doing originally, which was electronic retail, real low margins, cutting edge stuff, guess wrong, go out of business. The one thing about rent-to-own is I think it's a margin business. It has a better margin. So there's more risk and more reward. But for the hardworking, determined, don't need to live too big while you're young in the business type person, I don't really think there's a really bad time to do it. I don't, you talked about expansion for starting owners. I think the time to expand should start off. The number one most important thing is when you have the people to do it, because I've done it both ways. I've done it when I had enough staff, enough quality staff to go forward. And I've also made that mistake and did it when I had the finances and I knew what to buy and I had the facility, but I didn't have anybody to run it. And it runs badly. for a while, and you build a terrible reputation in a town with a customer base. So my biggest thing about starting is how determined are you, and can you live pretty carefully for a while, or do you need a lot of cash? Personally, I'd say that's not a good way to start a rent-to-own business. You really need to be able to. I mean, my wife drove a 1964 Mercury Comet station wagon in the 80s for 9 years with no air conditioning, no automatic a station wagon, mind you, no automatic transmission, three
Oh,
on the
wow.
three. That was the family vehicle, and a Dodge Maxi van that had 100,000 miles on it when I bought it was the delivery truck. And we just didn't buy new vehicles. We just hustled and didn't spend a dime hardly. And that's kind of how we started from nothing. That's kind of how you have to start, I think. And people come with a lot higher expectations. I think it's harder to grow quickly, and we grew pretty quick. We didn't grow initially. We did 7 years in one location, and then we started opening stores and got as high as a couple of dozen at one point, and have been in 29 different towns. But we downsized at one point and got really to the sweet spot of where we were good at, which is that maybe 125 employees. That's a spot we're pretty good at, and I think you got to find your sweet spot. What are you good at?
Well, hopefully it's better than what I'm doing right now, right? I hope I'm really good at a podcasting. We'll see how it goes.
The pay's not so great here, right?
You never know. But so there were more locations at Showplace, and then you dialed it back. How many did you get up to? You said 26?
Well, at one time we had 25 open and running, and also 7 cash advance locations that my wife ran.
Oh, wow.
And she did that business for about 10 years, mostly in the late 90s and early 2000s. And in 2003, I sold 10 stores to Aaron's, just to dial back and get stronger. And we did. We took some cash, paid off some debt, kept our best. And Ken Butler and Charlie Loudermilk come up here to Marion, Ohio on a small plane and sat down at my desk, and we picked out the stores that they were going to take. And I found that to be an honorable transaction. I was appreciative of Charlie, and just that was a good deal for both of us, I think. So
let me ask you something. Are you getting everything out of your rent-to-own business? If you're not an A-Pro member, then the answer is probably no. Look, advocacy is A-Pro's bread and butter. This is why they were created and what they do best. But here's the thing. A-Pro membership is about way more than advocacy. A-Pro connects you to the movers and the shakers of the industry. People who've been there, done that, and they can help you do it even better. A-Pro's monthly webinars give you expert insights and actionable takeaways. It's like having a masterclass for your business every single month. Got questions about complex regulations or sticky situations? No problem. A-Pro's legal hotline gives you direct access to experts who have got the answers. That's a peace of mind that you can't put a price on. And let's not forget the resources, news, updates, and tools that keep you ahead of the curve. Scholarships for your team? Check. Disaster relief when you need it most? Double check. A-Pro is your ultimate support system in the rent-to-own world. So stop settling for less. With A-Pro, members get more. More support, more connections, more success. Head over to rtohq.org and join the A-Pro family today. Because in this business, more isn't just better. It's essential. See you at the top with A-Pro. Well, I'm going to tell you what, I recently had the opportunity to speak with Ken, and let me tell you, I really enjoyed that. It was an eye opener, and he's still sharp as ever. Tell you exactly what's on his mind. I love that part, especially running a podcast. I want people to be able to say what's on their mind and just go forward and be able to say, this is what I think, this is what's going on, regardless of whether people agree or not. This is an opinionated situation, right? You get to speak your mind and say what you got to say, and that's okay. It's all good in the world of rent-to-own. This guy's, even the mistakes that we make sometimes are learning tools to be able to go forward and make better decisions ahead, and he created some great insight. One of the reasons why I wanted to speak with you, because a lot of, I don't know if you know this, Gary. I'm gonna pull back the veil. Everybody that I talk to mentions your name. believe it or not.
Well,
Words
that's
of wisdom.
very, very nice.
You know, it started with Mike Tissett, and I don't think there's a person that hasn't mentioned your name as far as people that they either look up to, talk to, pull their experience and knowledge from. You know, the things that you've done and try to work from that in the best way that they can. And I don't know if you know that, but I mean, I would like to be the first to tell you if you don't. You've been around a long time. I couldn't imagine, but if you don't, there are people that mention you all the time. You know, I talk to Chaz Fodsick. I really appreciate Chad. He's got, you know, that one store still mentality, but he still runs it very well. He's still an entrepreneurial spirit where he gets, you know, stuff done outside a couple of other businesses that he has. Or whether you're talking to Mike Tissett, who's got his, you know, his own rent-to-own, or you're talking to some other guys who have multiple, you know, people who help them own it, you know, co-ownership or whatever. They all mention Gary at some point in time. You know, just to let you know that, they're thinking about you.
So long, you know.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned Keith, because that was something that I wanted to talk to you about. Because something that I've noticed, and you tell me if I'm wrong, there are some people that in your position that have done it a long time. They really appreciate the business. They've done it a long time, and they have the ability to sort of pass it along, hand down the reins to a family member or somebody who's, you know, been there, done that. They know what you've gone through, whether they're being the family or very close to the family, you know, closely. Like, you know, for instance, you mentioned Charlie and Ken. That was like a dynamic duo at one point, right? So, but in these smaller companies, you know, you have the ability to kind of pass it down to somebody who's related to you, somebody who enjoys the business and feels that same passion as you. Now, Keith is the current president of Showplace at this time, right?
Yep. And majority owner now. He's been buying shares from his mother and I for quite a few years now. So
he's doing the right thing. And so what I've noticed though is that there are less heirs than there used to be. There was a lot of pass down throughout these past 40 years. You know, when we talk about Tissett coming from his father, you going down to Keith, when we talk about John Cleek to John Cleek Jr., those were some major things that happened. But I'm starting to see that that's slowing down. I don't see as many on that, for lack of a better term, the third tier. You know, it's coming down to the juniors or it's coming down to the firstborns or whatever the case is. You know, I know Carrico has his daughter involved, but that's a handful. And I don't see as many on the horizon. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that there's not as many as the third generation as the first generation?
well, I think it's certainly. I think most successful business people, um, it's not their ideal dream that one of their children takes over their business. Might be some that have that dream, but I would say for me, I wanted to be an advocate for my children. You know, I wanted them to do what their dream was. If it happened to be mine, that might be some good leverage for them. And I think it is for Keith. You know, he learned at the dinner table a lot of what I did and what we do young, so he's got a leg up. But if he wanted to be a dentist or or you know, like my older boys, drive a semi as a commercial trucker most of his life, I'd have been happy for him, you know. So I really think that there may be a group that says, "Oh, I just want to pass it down to my kids," but I think there's a sizable group that says, "No, I just want my kids to do what they love because I got to do what I love." And it so happened Keith fell in love with it. My daughter did a great job for 10 years doing our marketing at one point right out of college, and that was a good gig for her. But Keith really fell in love with the industry, and he fits it good, and he has a different set of strengths than I do. Um, but I mean, he got a lot of his strengths from his mother, and I've got great admiration for my wife and his mother. I'm so grateful that he got some of her skills and some of her personality traits and so forth, and that kind of made Keith and I think, a partnership that worked like Marianne and I's partnership. You know, I mean, we offset each other with different strengths, and it served Keith and I together for Showplace. And he's been here now, I don't know, 15. He worked for Marianne in her cash advance business first, and then he come on board as my buyer because I knew he was a good negotiator. I dealt with that when he was a child. But yeah, so I don't know about the ebb and flow of second and third generations. I guess I hadn't really thought seriously about that, but I would say, it probably, there was an awful lot of the early guys that I worked with in this industry that were first. I mean, there was no previous generation in this business. The Norm Slattons, the Lowry Schraders, you know, David Blevins, Harvey Whitehead. I wrote a couple names down here so I wouldn't forget some of the people, that I really had a lot of respect for and learned so much from in the early days. My Orta group, Daryl, Mike's dad, and Ernie Llewellyn, that group was a trio that argued vehemently about details, but respected each other, learned from each other, and I think, that was, then I moved into learning from some other people, away from the Orta into the Trib group, learning from David Blevins, Showcase Rent-to-Own out of Huntsville, Alabama, and Cynthia Baber-Strunk, who had just lost her husband, pre-Shannon, obviously, and Slats and Lowry Schrader and Jim Sims and a bunch of old guys that were Trib board members, Harvey Whitehead, Harvey's Neighborhood Rentals. That early 90s Trib board was full of entrepreneurial spirit, first generation entrepreneurial spirit. And I think what you're finding in second and third generations is maybe there's some of that. Certainly, I see it in some of the young folks today. Chris Jr. There's a lot of good entrepreneurial spirit out there. And I think Larry Carrico is blessed with a great team, including his daughter. But I think that's part of it, is those original people. We were kind of plowing some new ground. And I was learning from some that did their initial plowing. I kind of feel like I was semi second generation, somewhere between first and second RTO generation people. And, again, it's talked about a lot, Pete. I've heard you talk about it. I've heard a lot of other people talk about the camaraderie, the sharing that our industry has enjoyed for a long time. I look at learning that I learned that from Lowry and Slats and David Blevins and Cynthia Baber-Strunk. Those were the people, and Ernie and Daryl too. Everybody, though we might have bickered occasionally about details, we all were stretching each other, and we were very open to helping each other. And I think that I tried to copy that. I don't think I invented it. I think I tried to copy it, and I tried to be open and honest. And I've had a lot of industry friends since then that I enjoy and I've learned lots from. And maybe I hope I helped in some small way. If I harnessed something that I learned, I was always willing to share it. So sometimes probably to a fault. So they probably said, "Shut up, Gary."
Well, talking about some industry first and some of the names that you mentioned, really, really great people that have done a lot for the industry. One thing that I've seen. So Castle Rental and Pawns is one of them, where they have a situation where they have the rental side, and then they have the other side, and it's a pawn, right? So they're running out of the same building, kind of cut down the middle, and they do two different things. You mentioned this cash situation that your wife ran. Did you ever think that it would be a good idea to run them both out of, or close to side by side and do that together? Are there places that you have done that?
Yes. Yeah. When she first started opening stores, the first one she opened was separate, but along the way we opened a couple kiosks in our rent-to-own business and tried that for a while with some success. I think the standalones did a little better for her. And we tried movie tape rentals in the early days alongside our rent-to-owns things. We've ran carpet. We installed carpet. We sold carpet retail. The big part of the beginning of our business was putting up C-band 10-foot satellite dishes. That
Oh, wow.
was a huge part of our hitting critical mass with cash flow and keeping our debt low was selling a new $2,500 satellite dish to customers in 83 and 84 and 85 and 86 and making $500 or $600 on it and paying for that $600 Zenith or Sylvania television that I was going to rent to somebody for $16.99 a week or whatever. I mean, that business really helped us get going. So putting some things side by side, I think, has its utility. And it may be necessary for a while. Ultimately, I do think becoming the place in your specific thing to go probably has advantages.
So, because I'm glad you said that, because that was actually my next question. Is the evolution of rent to own to bring on some of these side things and have them available, or do you think not having them in there and staying focused true to just the rent to own part of it is where you think it should be?
It's talent specific. If you got an entrepreneur running a single location with a lot of desire and a lot of planning skills, knowledge, I think they can run multiple things out of one location. I think that's hard to do as a chain. Things that fit in as a product or service that goes with rent to own really well, like when we first got into computers and that was such a new thing to rent. Some of those innovations and product changes, I think, will always be a valuable part of rent to own. But as far as completely different industries, trying to run a carpet store alongside a rent to own store, I don't think, that's not something you're going to do on a wide scale. That's something that a determined entrepreneur, probably with a very supportive husband or wife, it can get done. But I don't think it's something you're going to see Rack doing. I mean, Rack's got some side gigs, doing financing and so forth. That's so close to the same model. Just employing somebody else to market for you,
Right.
And I think that's been valuable, obviously, for them. The stock market looks kind of ugly today, but I got to tell you, I like Rack stock at the current price. I like it. I don't want to sell it. I want to buy more,
Right.
And I have bought some more. But, I think you get these opportunities rare and few times, and it's the courage to know ebbs and flows come and go. Don't get freaked out. Keep moving forward. And back to one of your original points is now a time you could. I mean, we opened our first store in spring of 82. I mean, do you know what the economy was like in 80, 81, 82, 79, 80, 81, 82? I mean, I was paying 18.5 interest on my house in those days, and I opened a rent-to-own store. So I mean, things were tough, and there was layoffs. I worked at a factory, and I got laid off occasionally, and it was pretty much a great dovetail. When they didn't need me much anymore, it's about right when Showplace really needed full time.
So, in the expansion burst, right? You open up some more stores. You realize that maybe shelling out some and parting ways with some of them were a good idea because of whatever the case is. They're performing differently, or they're too far to really be right on top of and make sure that they're growing. Whatever the case is, have you ever thought? Because then I see some of these. I see some companies doing like the expansion model of a franchise. You ever thought about doing a franchise situation, and what would be the consideration to do that? Saying Showplace has got 15, but I'm going to franchise you because I've got this brand. I've been doing this a long time. And if you have the entrepreneurial spirit, I have the name. Let's put that together and grow the company. Have you ever thought that might be something in the future, or maybe in the past that you've tried that you didn't really want to go with?
Well, I never really seriously considered being a franchisee of another rent-owned firm. But I have to say, probably in the mid 90s, I wondered if I could pull off, kind of what Trooper did, maybe even pre-Trooper doing it. That I like building systems and processes, and that was probably my favorite part of the business, was building systems and processes, repeatable things that could help. We called it make it McDonald's simple.
Yeah.
Do stuff that other people could repeat, so that you could hire average people to do a really good job in this business. And so I did give that some consideration then. Um, and then I think I probably got, had a year or two where I got a dose of humility and thought, I'm not as bright as I think I am. I better just take care of my own backyard. It's enough. And I think that's ultimately what I ended up figuring out, that I just love being about 100 to 125 employees, knowing all of them, knowing a lot of most of their kids' names. That was my style. And so, no, I really, big was never as important or anywhere near as important to me as good. I liked being good first, and that was a challenge all my career, was trying to get better, because we were good. We really didn't have any big down years. I mean, as far as, I didn't lose money any years on a P&L. I got real close when I downsized. That's why I sold 10 stores, because we were close to having a money losing year, and I thought, I've overshot myself here. I'm not, my competence level isn't where my needs are right now. So that's why we downsized.
Do you want your business to make an impact? Does your brand move people? Successful brands and campaigns require thoughtful, disciplined, and creative strategies to move them forward. At Vox, they don't just print. They're creative experts with a vision to take your brand to new heights. With experience in launches, rebranding, and integrated promotions, they've done it all. And they're ready to bring your project to life from concept to completion. Whether it's tents, feather flags, custom branded merchandise, they've got you covered. From direct to object printing to engraving, they put your logo on anything. With full in-house finishing capabilities, they control every detail to ensure fit, finish, and function is never a question. Experience what makes a difference. Your brand deserves a team that understands growth, creativity, and impact. Let Vox take your brand further. Contact them today and create the impact you're looking for. You know what? That's a pretty amazing statement, because I think some people, regardless of where they are, want to push for the stars, and either it's just not their niche, it's not what they can do, or they have to bring in somebody else to help them because their skill set is a little bit different than yours, and some people can't admit that. I can do it. I just got to figure this out. I've learned a long time ago that my ceiling is only so high. It might be higher than others. It's lower than some. And some of the things that I can do are some of the things that they can't do. And some of the things that they can do are just some of the things that I can't do. And sometimes, you got to find that right dance partner to say, you know what, the reason that we're together is because I need an Abbott to a Costello. I need a Batman to a Robin. And we can't all do the same things, but together we can do it right. And that's important. And it's great that you mentioned the 125 employees, and that you know them, their families, because didn't you guys just recently have an award show where I saw so many awards that were given out? I think there was a list of almost 12 to 15 awards where there was like the Rookie of the Year and the Best Operator of the Year and somebody from home office. And it was one of those things, like, I really think that, you guys did it very well. You had the ability to kind of see everybody and talk to everybody. And there's this thing, like, we're not giving awards away to everybody, but everybody's going to have that opportunity to stand up in front of everybody and just, hey, this is something that I can recognize you for. You're doing a great job. It looked like Keith was taking the brunt of that. I don't know how much of it. I saw a little bit of you in there, but I saw him. I don't know how that worked, but I mean, I know he's doing a great job, kind of passing that torch along to him and having him out there as the front person. I mean, of course, he's obviously the president, so I know he's doing a great job, but I mean, just to see that and happening. But then I did have a question. So it was Showplace, and then it was R&R. Is that, are you guys doing that together as two companies that work together, or was it just because you guys have closeness? Is there Showplaces and an R&R that you guys own together?
Well, again, I mentioned Slats and Lowry and a bunch of these guys. I can't leave out Larry Sutton as one of my mentors from early on. Dear friend,
the godfather of rent-to-own, right? Is that where he got his name from?
Yeah, we used to, well, in the really early days of Orta, we'd bring him in the Reverend of our RTO, and have him fire up the troops, and just always loved Larry's spirit. But of course, Larry started the franchise, the R&R franchise, and him and David came and was trying to sell the idea for us to get into it. And I just knew at the time this happened 6, 7, 8 years ago. I was late enough in my career that I didn't have the juice to want to add that extra thing. That was a whole bunch of new learning. I was excited by it. I wished I was 10 years younger. But I just told Keith. Keith was with us by then, and had a vice president level position here. I just said, if we're going to do this, you need to do it, and I'll help a bit advice wise, but you kind of need to do it because I'm not going to learn the details. And you can't have, in my mind, you can't have an owner without their hands dirty. It doesn't work very well very long. And so he needed to get his hands dirty, and he wanted to do it. So he bought some franchise rights and has opened a couple stores, and I think he's got another one in the pipeline right now that they're working on the remodel in Lima, Ohio. It's coming about. We do the admin for them, just like when Marianne run the Sunset Cash advances. She directed the operations, the store operations, but we always did the payroll and the HR and the admin, and just charged a fee for it, an intra-company fee. And that's what we're doing for Keith's R&R stores and we just said it's time for them to become a part of our annual customer appreciation event. And that's why you saw them there this year. And really, the last couple of years, Keith has fully directed that event. That him and the HR department have fully directed. I mean, I was actively engaged in it for 20 some years of I don't know when we started doing an actual customer appreciation day and closing the stores, but it's probably been 20 some years ago. And I got to say, credit to some current peers. I learned going to Mike Tissett's show along the way how creative and sincere a lot of the appreciations were from him and his dad to the countryside family. And I learned some things from that was very beneficial to me. I got a lot of current guys that I look back to Lowry and Slats as and Larry as heroes, but there's a lot of current guys that I have as heroes too. And Mike's certainly a hero of mine, and Chris Bolin and Lynn Leach, and these guys are real close friends in this business. And I've learned so much from those guys. The camaraderie and sharing of this industry that everybody talks about is real. And I just wanted to be a cog in that wheel. I don't take any paternity in it. I think it came from others, but I feel like I tried to be a cog in that wheel.
Well, I think you have been. I'm going to tell you that. I think you have been. I don't think you give yourself enough credit for that. I mean, to say that you have somebody who under you, your son or whatever the case is, because I don't, sometimes I don't know. Sometimes we say, this is who they are, and we don't want to put a title on that because I would love to say my daughter eventually is going to take over whatever I'm doing and all that. I just like to call her by who she is and let her make that decision. But I mean, exactly. Come on, that's such a great addition to the brand to say that there's an R&R also included in that, because it looks like everybody did a great job. It looks like everybody was enjoying being there. It looks like you've built not only the brand, but you've built that culture and that family of those people that enjoy being there. That's part of it. That's a huge part of it, and it's great to see that. It's great to see that Keith's being able to add on to that and kind of carry that torch along, and then become his own entrepreneurial spirit to kind of expand on his own different ways and how he wants to do that. And honestly, I really would love to say that my daughters are going to do that. Neither of the older ones really want to have anything to do with rent-to-own. That's just not in their blood. Not that it's bad. My older one tried it for a little while and she said, Dad, hey, it was a great experience, but I don't know how you do it. It's just not for me. She's a little bit more of the four walls and the type of business where she's just behind the desk and doing what she does. And maybe she'll come back a little bit later, I hope, but we'll see how that works. So we have those added on. And Honestly, I think it's a great move because that's, we were talking about the cash, the R&R is on there. You're getting everybody together. You've added these stores. But now, at the end of retirement, I see you wearing a jacket. It looks like you're going to work. Have you really? You saying that you're taking a step back. So after
See
44
here,
years,
I got Showplace on here.
there you
Showplace
go. Look, that's what
Cinema.
I'm talking
So
about. So here's my question: is you've been doing this such a long time. You finally decided to take a step back. Really, two questions: is what made you decide that this was a good time to finally go? I think I've done as much as I'm going to do. I'm going to take a step back, and then what is a step back? You've done it for 44 years. What's a step back? I literally just got finished talking to Ed Wynn. 40 years. And Ed's like, I've done it all. I've done this. I've done that. I've helped open April. I've helped with, the RDAs. I've gone to Ledge Cons. I've done everything. And I'm sayonara. I'm good. I'm okay. He kind of keeps in touch a little bit, but he's okay with being able to step back because of what he's done. How did you come up with that idea? And what do you do now? What is a normal day to day for Gary?
well, here's honors to Ed Wynn too. He's helped me a lot through the years. I just think that Keith's had the ability to run this company for some time. He's bright. He's hardworking and diligent. Um, and I really kind of feel like the momentum that we've had here is strong enough that it doesn't need me. And I kind of used that as a principle all through my career. That as we grew the business, as soon as I could teach somebody else how to do something and sustain something that I'd been doing, I tried to look for the next thing I ought to be doing. And I think that's kind of what I'm doing now is Keith can do this. And I've got a couple things that I want to do, some stuff, on our land, some historic stuff for our family. There's just some projects that I kind of want to work on. And I think Keith's got this. Keith and Rick and Mike, the current group that kind of runs the show here at Showplace, they're capable and they don't need me. And Keith's not needy. I think he has his own ideas of what needs to be done, what's important. There's enough of them that line up that he and I've been pretty good at getting along as a father son. I mean, there's things we debate on, and it's probably uncomfortable for other people. We're pretty good at not doing a lot of that in front of other people, I
Yeah.
think. But it's that's natural. I don't think that's unnatural. Um, Most father and son are father and daughters, or mother and son or mother and daughter. Combinations in business, I think, have some differences. If there's enough love and respect, those don't last long. You get past them real quick, and maybe you stretch each other. That's what I always thought about Daryl and Ernie and I in Orta is that we debated a lot of things, but respectfully. We were never mean to each other. We just debated diligently, respectfully, and learned from each other. And I think families can do that too.
But so I feel like once I finally get Dan Fisher locked in, we're gonna have the same. I feel like you guys. Did you guys have a conversation to go? Listen, this is my last year. This is it.
Yeah. No, I mean you know Dan's worthy of mention. Terry Bevel was a dear friend of mine that
Yes.
worked for Slats.
Yes.
Great industry helper, glue that helped hold us together during some tough times. Um, think a lot of Caricos and just there's just so many people in this industry that were so willing to help each other. So grateful to have had this career in this industry.
So then back to question number two. Now that we've decided, now that we've made those things and you feel comfortable about it, what is the normal day to day for Gary? How do we go from 44 years of really, the grinding? I mean, you've got the first years of really just kind of getting your roots growing up to stores, shrinking stores, opening R&Rs, passing the torch, making sure that your culture is there, making sure that you know the name of people. I mean, I do see the Showplace shirt on. I just want you to know I do see the shirt on. But what does a day now look like that you've kind of stepped back from it all?
Well, on the Showplace side, I'm still probably responding to some some peers, some vendors that don't know that I'm away yet. I mean, it's been pretty recent that I wasn't here all the time. So I'm still doing some emails and some voicemails and return calls. I'm still texting with my friends that are in the industry. We still have regular interaction. I'd say, you know, not a lot of time goes by that there isn't a half a dozen people that I interact with about some kind of rent-own issue. Um, I'd say that's still part of it. Um, we own some of the properties that the Showplace stores are in, so we're still managing some real estate. Marianne, my wife, really helps a lot with the details on that. Um, so that's related. Um, we've got, two homes. We really enjoy some time in Tennessee on the lake. And I'm still, there's a project still going on there to make that what we want. And we've got 5 acres up here in Ohio. And there's always work to do on that land. And I really dearly enjoy that work. I really like being outside in the winter in the north. That's one of my favorite times of the world is just to have my chainsaw jeans on. They got some holes in them from nipping them with a chain, and my log splitter out there, and a fire going on 2 different levels, burning up old rotten wood, trying to clean up the woods a little bit, that stuff that's laid down, and just being outside all day in 20 degrees. That's, I'm never cold, at all. Maybe the first 3 minutes, but pretty soon you work up that glow, and you're shedding stuff, and I just love doing that. And then the summertime, I still like riding motorcycles and boating, and her and I bought new bikes this year, so that's going to be part of every summer, as long as the window's open, we're still capable of doing it. We're visiting Yellowstone for some time this year.
Oh wow, that's
Probably.
going to be nice.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can tell you right now, I have tried the North thing. When we went up to LedgeCon, there's a couple times it hit in the 40s. And let me tell you, my blood is thinned out since I've been in Florida. Okay, I've been in Florida for about 35 years, and let me tell you, I could take the heat all day. The cold goes through me to my bones. It's not something that I enjoy going, seeing, and then coming home. So I could I understand that the need for wanting to be where you want to be, where naturally you just feel like, you want to go. But
Yeah.
Gary, this legacy that you have, the things that you've been able to accomplish and what you've done, the people that look up to you, I just want you to know we appreciate you in the rent-own industry. I appreciate you. And I'm glad that you were able to come today and kind of just really sit down and talk to us a little bit. One thing that I wanted to get from you, you do have a mind for this, whether it's been beaten into you through experience, whether you have that foresight, or whether you have the people around you, like you've mentioned, that really help, guide your decisions or give you the information for you to make educated decisions. What would you say to somebody who really wants to take over, become something on their own? They want to open up their own place. They want to get things. What is something or a few things that you would say, you know what, this is advice that is just, you couldn't put a label on it, and you couldn't put an amount on it. This is really that important in your eyes, that you see, you should know this, try this, do this, or think about this as you go into this, opening up or trying to get several things or becoming a partner. What would that be?
Well, I don't know how I would have explained it before I had Stephen Covey as a mentor, but he helped me articulate it. I'd call those 7 Habits of Highly Effective People one of the biggest impacts on my life ever.
Great book. If you haven't read it, guys, you have to read that book. An amazing book. I've done it twice and I still miss things. I've got to listen to it again. Paul Mativian and I were just talking about this at LedgeCon, because I had read it years and years ago, and then he re-recommended. I listened again, and I still feel like I'm missing stuff, and I'm going to have to do a third read pretty soon.
So that question and that advice from that to articulate it is, if you're that person that you're asking me about, that wants to go forward, and what's the best advice I could give them is, dream big, write it down, bust it into bite-sized pieces, keep the main thing the main thing, so prioritize, and plan weekly. Get yourself a routine of planning so that those bite-sized pieces, do the hard work of of dreaming and figuring out what it is that you got to get done, and then ask yourself those coaching questions. What should you do first? What's the most important thing? What should you do next? Um, and bust them into those bite-sized pieces, and get a calendar in front of you. Carry, I don't know if you probably can't see this. Maybe you can see this. My Franklin planner has went on every motorcycle trip I've ever taken, to Seattle, to Napa twice on our bikes. I have to have that with me. It is my hard drive. Um, and I spend time with it still on Sunday evenings, planning out what needs to get done this week. And I'd say some people probably have the mental capacity to do that, without writing it down. I I see that in people, that their recall and their ability to prioritize and organize can be done mentally much better than me. I've always needed to write it down, and I knew it. And I still think, even for those that are pretty good mentally acuity at doing it without writing it down, there's a lot of added value in dreaming big, writing down that dream. That is the mission. That's your personal mission. Right? Have a company mission if you're with a company, whether you work for somebody else or whether you're the man that owns it and the responsibility rests here. Have a mission, and revise it when it needs. Think about it. If it's out of date, and my mission statement got revised numerous times over my career. I kept a personal mission statement since the early 80s, and I still got one. And we kept a company mission statement. We revised it a few times along the way. I mean, it's real simple right now at Showplace. And I think Customer Appreciation Day is a big part of showing what our mission is, and that's to be a really special place to shop and a really special place to work. And you can't have a special place to shop for customers, be their favorite, their Cheers bar, their favorite place to go spend money. That's what we wanted to be. We wanted the music to be on and the first name calling as soon as a customer hit the door. And we wanted to hire people that got a kick out of doing that, building those relationships, and that made this job better than other jobs that even paid more money for them. So we were always looking for that fit, that perfect fit to work in a store that could make it a Cheers bar, and then we tried to do things to make it special for them.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm going to start looking forward to that. I'm glad that somebody else finds Stephen Covey as great as I do. Talking to Paul about it has been my one thing. Josh Asecki, those are a couple of guys that I go to for a lot of things, and we talk about Stephen Covey all the time, and the paradigms and the way you see things, and how things should be seen from a lot of different point of views. But I can tell you right now, I have a little bit more to go. I haven't quite gotten to where you're at yet. I've only been in the industry for about 20 years, and I'm looking to do another 20. So hopefully at that point in time, I'll be able to give somebody the advice that you've given me and pass that on. Or at least say, in my youth, you could check out this podcast and see what somebody has to say. But I really appreciate you being with me today. I really appreciate you sharing some of the knowledge. I really like what Keith's doing. I'm glad that you were able to pass that down, and I'm glad that you guys have that dynamic to be able to do it together for the years that you have, and to see where it goes in the future and see how big it gets and see how well it goes. If you ever decide to do the franchise thing, you let me know. And I want you guys to know I appreciate you being with us today. Listen, anytime that you guys have a question for Gary, please reach out to the show. You can reach us at pete@thertoshowpodcast.com. You can hit up our website, the same thing, at www.thertoshowpodcast.com. We're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, now on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. And if there's anything that I can do, let me know. Gary, I really appreciate you being with us today. I appreciate your insights. And more, I want you to know, I'm going to miss you when I stop seeing you. I missed you at LegCon. I'm going to miss you, but I'm so glad that you're available, and I plan on calling you soon on probably something that I'm stumped on. Everybody says, but Gary said, so I'm going to call you every once in a while. I just want you to know
You're
that.
always welcome. Anybody in this industry is always welcome. I value my relationships in the industry. That'll never end. And what you do here, to help others, Pete, is very valuable, and I think a lot of people appreciate it.
Well, I thank you, and I appreciate it. Guys, thank you for being with us, and I will tell you as always, get your collections low to get your sales high. Have a great one.